welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. Today's video is going to be on the forecasts and predictions for May of 2020. Now, I will go over each individual sign in the zodiac and how this might affect you, so keep listening for your rising, your moon, or your sun sign. Now, May is a bit of a calmer month. We do have some difficulties, of course, that we're going to be experiencing, such as Venus retrograde and a continued Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn conjunction, which is going to be in the background for quite some time. But I will be going over some transits that we will experience, and then I will get into each individual sign. So please keep watching. If you are interested in booking a reading with me, my link is in the description box, or if you'd like to connect with me, please also like this video, comment your feedback, and subscribe to my channel. Now on April 27th, the end of the month here, we have Mercury entering Taurus. And at this point in the month, the sun is already in Taurus, Uranus is in Taurus, and so as soon as Mercury enters, it's activating that again, and we're having some additional news coming in and some things that we're starting to feel, a little bit uncertain about. There can be some shocking news that we're hearing. There can be new innovative strategies, or even like imposing strategies. Sometimes when we have Sun and Uranus together, people can have really creative and innovative ideas, but it can also be sort of a like controlling, imposing, do things my way, I'm the leader. So that energy can be sort of in the background. There might be some things that not everyone agrees with. The protests might continue to happen, and there can be somewhat of a, a government looming over things. So there might be some news coming when Mercury enters Taurus on April 27th that is upsetting to some people and is not really like comforting to people. Taurus, we think of being more comforting, more comfortable, more calm, and level-headed, and even stubborn. With all of these planets there, it's going to shake things up and cause people to feel even further uncertain and even unsafe potentially. Now, we will have on May 2nd a nice trine going on in the sky from the moon in Virgo to these planets in Taurus, Uranus, Mercury, and the sun, trine in Capricorn with Pluto and Jupiter. So it's going to feel like we are kind of getting on the right track. Maybe we're able to plant some seeds of things that we have been working on. We're able to implement things. Maybe we're able to actually get back to work by May, and the government could be loosening up a little bit. But again, at the same time, there is sort of that looming, imposition that we might be dealing with as well. The last time that Pluto and Jupiter were conjunct in the sky was in 2008. So, as I mentioned in some of my previous videos, this is very reflective of that time period as far as the economy goes. So we're going to continue to have some challenges, restructuring with finances, with money, with how we are earning a living, how we are using that, using that income, and how the government plays a role in society. So especially with Taurus in the picture and with Venus coming up to go retrograde, we will all be having to reevaluate what we value, how we earn a living, how we make our money, and how we love and how we appreciate our family and our friends, and even how we deal with our coworkers and our employees. Now, Venus is going to be going retrograde in Gemini on May 14th. The last time that Venus was retrograde in Gemini was in 2012. So if you have any, experiences from 2012 that are really prominent that you can look back and remember on, they may be coming up around this time from May 14th until August 8th when Venus enters Cancer. This will be a time that some of those things from that period might resurface, whether they're psychological, maybe they are an ex coming back to try and talk to you, or just some type of situation is going to resurface again, and you'll have to review things. Venus retrograde is about, if you haven't seen my video on Venus retrograde, I will put that in the description. I did a video on the transit that we're going to have and on the experience that I've had in my natal chart. So it's going to cause a lot of relationship fights, maybe dramas. Things are being postponed, of course, weddings, parties, holiday parties, gatherings. baby showers, engagement parties, just any type of party that we're having, any type of a social endeavor or engagement that we had planned for the summer, a lot of them are being put on hold, or something they're just not able to happen in the same way, or there is a frustration around it. So there could be more arguing, more fights about money and love over these next few months until Venus enters Cancer on August 8th. Now, at this time, on May 3rd, we also have a important transit between Venus and Neptune. It's going to be a square. So Neptune is at 20 degrees of Pisces, and Venus is at 20 degrees of Gemini. So this is going to further deepen the illusionary aspect of things. There can be people who are still overspending, who are still not seeing things clearly, and maybe they're not making decisions clearly. Maybe people are getting involved in romances at this time, and they are potentially being lied to, or things might come up, throughout the rest of the month or the rest of the next few months when Venus is retrograde, that they won't like to hear. Because when Venus and Neptune are square, it's a highly romantic, highly attractive aspect, but at the same time it is very illusionary and very, you're uncertain of what's to come, because there is such a veil, in front of your face. So people are really just seeing what they want to see over the next few months. And some people aren't really taking things serious still. I think people will get back to their daily routine, their daily life once these restrictions are lifted. And then there might be, another reality check that kind of hits us after all of these transits, probably at the end of the month, and maybe in June, or this may even delay off again until August. And then at that time, there may be some additional restrictions or government, coming in and trying to monitor people and putting in some rules and regulations. For example, like in Houston here, we've just gotten a notice that any adults that leave the house for the next 30 days have to be wearing a face mask. And I guess it's not for children, but this is a government thing that they are imposing, and they're making people do. The stay-at-home guidelines were guidelines. Now this is an actual law, basically, that can be disciplined with a $1,000 fine. So there are going to be a continuation of unique restrictions and things that people might feel are imposing on their freedom over the next year, and definitely something for us all to be aware of. Now on May 12th, we're actually having the moon come into Capricorn and join up with Jupiter and Pluto. Now this is going to cause, I think, a lot more emotional strain on people's sense of well-being and sense of freedom, and probably even highlighting the economic impact that this is all having. Because again, as I mentioned, the last time Pluto and Jupiter were together was in 2008. This is recalling some of those similar patterns. So when the moon gets there, it's illuminating that, and it's going to further deepen some of those challenges. Mars is also approaching the end of Aquarius, so for some of you Aquarius people, you may be feeling a little bit, frustrated still. Mars being in your sign is never typically a very fun aspect to have, especially if you have maybe more planets there. So just kind of keep an eye on that. Once Mars gets out of Aquarius, you will probably be feeling better and maybe a little bit less restricted. Maybe there's going to be less fighting going on. Mars actually enters Pisces on May 14th. So at that time, again, you should probably be feeling better. The moon will be actually in Aquarius on May 14th. So there's a lot of different things going on this day. You're having the moon in Aquarius. Venus is now going retrograde in Gemini. Mars is entering Pisces. So it's a big shift around mid-May. So people will be definitely feeling that. There can be an increased level of suffering happening for some people, maybe an increase in sickness, not necessarily just COVID-19, but possibly like mental health, maybe mental blocks, mental depression, bipolar, different things that people are starting to, it's starting to build up after all this time that we've had in isolation. That is a lot due to the fact that the moon is squaring Uranus in Taurus. So that just further increases that emotional upset that people might be feeling. Saturn is still going retrograde, and it's at 1 degrees of Aquarius. So it's going to, that's about as far as it gets. I think 1 degree and 57 seconds. So it's going to continue its retrograde back into Capricorn. So people who have Saturn in Aquarius that are starting their Saturn return are still getting just the initial taste of what this, Saturn in Aquarius is going to be like. Some of the challenges and innovations, some of the pain that might be to come for the rest of your Saturn return. But it is more of just a faint background noise. If you don't have any other planets in Aquarius, you probably won't be feeling as much of that weight on your shoulder. Now, May 21st and May 22nd, Mercury is getting closer to Venus because Venus has started its retrograde now. So that's going to be at 20 degrees of Gemini. So Venus and Mercury coming together in Gemini, you really want to see what house that's happening for you in your chart, because you'll be able to know where in your life you might have this news coming, or this disruption, this fight, this time to reevaluate something maybe that you've decided about in that area of your life. Say it's the 9th house, maybe it's travel that you have booked and you're starting to have to deal with some of those, changes that you might have to adjust to, or even, hearing about a further time frame that you're not going to be in work. So just looking at where that is in your chart will definitely help. Now we will get into the signs and how this can affect you. As I mentioned, listen for your rising sign, your sun, or your moon. So for my Aries folks, at the beginning of the month when Mercury enters into Taurus and gets out of your sign, starting on April 27th, you probably are going to feel like you're a little bit, you have maybe a little less energy just because all of those planets are out of your sign now. The sun's out of Aries, Mercury's out of Aries. So everything is a little bit more calm for you. Maybe you are finding some newfound patience, new peace. You could be finding some, you're not fighting with people around you as much or arguing with people in your home or at work. And especially since, Mars is going to be entering Pisces as well, that will also calm things down a little bit for you. But, you are still getting that square from Jupiter and Pluto in Capricorn. So there's definitely still some, difficulties that you're dealing with, maybe some hidden pain or even some large pain. Jupiter puts a magnifying glass on something. So maybe there's something that you've been planning in your life over the, coming up, or something that you have been really anticipating that's not coming out as you expected it to come because of all of these challenges that, we're facing as a society. So I think, maybe buckling down financially, starting to save up some money, and focusing on some self-care right now during this time is always a good thing. You also have Venus in a sextile to your planet or your angle in Aries, so that's going to bring some fun romance to you, maybe some flirtation, maybe in your current partnership, or maybe you've started an online fling or flirtation during this quarantine. I've been encouraging people to talk online and keep open communication with people, because there is a need for connection, or you might start to feel lonely. So as Venus goes retrograde, especially by May 14th, you're going to probably start craving that connection with people. So make sure you're not denying yourself of that. Try to keep in contact with people. Let people know if you need help with anything. Now for Taurus, you're having a more important month since Mercury and the Sun and Uranus are all in your sign, and this is more of a tough time for you. Things are uncertain, things are a little bit scary. Maybe you are fearful. You're fearful of some financial venture that you've taken, or a risk that you've taken. Maybe you're fearful of the outcome of that. So you do have some positivity coming in now that Mercury will be in your sign, because you might hear some news or have some clarity about something in regards to that. So making sure that you are communicating really clearly with people around you, and even listening. I think sometimes when Uranus and the Sun are all there in Taurus, you can have a level of me. I'm worried about myself. I'm worried about what I'm doing. I'm worried about what I have going on. But looking around, looking at your family, looking at your friends, and making sure that you are checking in on those people as well, because they might be going through something similar. It's also important just to stay, more mentally cautious of the things that you're getting involved with, because you don't want to have any type of a mental breakdown right now. Not to say that that would happen, but with Mercury and Uranus together, there's a challenge for feelings to come up, or thoughts or ideas that are a little bit fearful, like anxiety. I think anxiety might be something that comes up for you guys during this time. And I would definitely recommend getting some great physical energy, like an exercise routine, running, walking, getting outside, gardening. That might be a good way to kind of get that energy out there. Now for my Geminis, you are having a lot more activity going on this month than some of the other signs, because Venus is in your sign. Venus is going to be going retrograde, and Mercury also enters your sign on May 13th. So I would say the beginning of the month is a little bit more calm for you, and towards the middle of the month there will potentially be I would say fights with people, arguments with people that you love, and news coming in, maybe about relationships that you're in, or about what you're doing, decisions that you have to make regarding a relationship, or regarding money even. Maybe you're hearing some new news about a relationship that you're in that you don't like. Maybe there has been some deceit going on, or some something that you haven't been aware of that comes to light. And because Neptune is squaring your sign, there is also a level of you not wanting to see what's happening, or wanting to see the truth. So having those conversations with yourself and with your partner of, yes, this is what I am experiencing, and this is valid. I'm not making this up in my head, or I am making this up a little bit in my head. I'm leaning more towards seeing what I want to see rather than what's actually happening. So having those conversations with yourself a lot is definitely important, because you don't want to be tricked. You don't want to be involved in any kind of a lie, or involved in any type of a scandal or a scam or something. That could be something that would happen. I think maybe getting involved maybe into like a new business venture, or into a new job, taking on a new contract at work that you didn't maybe understand everything fully, or that wasn't what you expected. And then come August, when Venus goes direct, there might be news coming, or something that comes to light about the decision that you've made. So being cautious with making any decisions right now while you are having this Venus retrograde is definitely important. We also have the sun going into your sign, which happens on May 21st. So you will have a heightened amount of energy by the end of the month. Definitely a good time for you to get active, get working out, getting some of the frustrations out that you might have been dealing with, these fights or these conflicts that you have. Even just the boredness, sometimes I think you may be getting a little bit bored with something or with someone. So getting out and getting your physical energy out, going for a run, or doing something active, playing some sports. If we're able to have groups together again, might be a really good way to do so. Even swimming, I think, since Mars is in Pisces right now, if you can go swimming or go to a pool and just sort of release that tension into the water might be a great way to do that. Now for my Cancers, Cancer has been going through it. You have the North Node in your sign, so there is a lot of focus and energy on what you are nurturing, what paths you're going on. Is the purpose and the path that you're choosing conducive to your soul's purpose and to your meaning for being here? You also have those transits from Capricorn, Jupiter and Pluto that are, restructuring who you are and your identity. So you might be having more focus on learning about yourself through relationships. There might be sort of a magnifying glass on, especially if this is your rising sign, Cancer. There could be a lot more emphasis on relationships during the next few months. And if you're in the right relationship, if you're in the right relationship, you're doing what you're supposed to do, you are nurturing yourself, and you're in a positive, healthy relationship, it will be much more positive. If you are in an unhealthy relationship with trauma or abuse, that is definitely going to be something that might be magnified over this the next few months. So just being really careful, making sure you're having those positive self-talks, motivational talks to yourself, and really being conscious and aware of who you give your time to. Now for my Leos, you will be having a few squares this month, unfortunately, coming from Taurus. We have Uranus there, the Sun, Mercury. So you also have Saturn opposite to your sign right now. So there can be maybe some, self-esteem, self-confidence, things that you're dealing with right now. Maybe some identity shifts with Uranus squaring your sign, and probably some new news coming in that you have to learn a little bit, how to adjust what you're doing. I would say this can definitely be something to do with career for you, Leos. There may be a job opportunity that comes about that you're not uncertain about, and by the middle of the month, once Mercury gets into Gemini and releases that square to your sign, then that can be maybe a better time to make a decision about what to do next, or how to move forward about into the next chapter in your life. I would say also just not being too hard on yourself over the next few months. With that Saturn opposition to your sign, we can, again, like I said, feel that confidence kind of blow, or just the ego blow, where you're not feeling as empowered, or you're not feeling like you're getting the attention or the admiration that you deserve. So just not being very hard on yourself, because things will turn and shift, and you will get back on track. It just might take a little bit longer than what you had anticipated. Now with my Virgos, at the beginning of the month, you will probably be feeling pretty positive, because you have those trines coming at you from the planets in Taurus and from Capricorn, Pluto and Jupiter. So you may be feeling like you have had a lot of time to do some self-care. Maybe you've had the time you've needed to organize your house, get the garden planted, clean something, and you've had, a nice quarantine time where you've been able to get to work on those hobbies and those activities that you've been maybe putting off. So this is going to intensify that some, and although there will be new challenges that you may face now that Venus is retrograde and Venus is going to be in Gemini square to Virgo, you may have some annoyances that start to come up. Maybe there is some things going on in work that are really going to be frustrating, maybe relationships with coworkers or relationships with people in your home. If you're, working from home, or if you are just, at home not working with your family, I would say there will be something maybe that comes up that frustrates you a little bit, or that you have to learn how to manage in a new way. By the end of the month, when Mars goes into Pisces, this is going to oppose your sign as well, so you may have some additional fighting that starts to pile up at the end of the month, or even maybe some bad news about something that you have been working on. Or it could even be just feeling a little bit more uncertain and maybe getting into old patterns of behavior. I could see this being a time that the Virgos maybe are drinking a little bit more, or getting into something that they don't necessarily think is healthy, maybe some bad foods or sugars, or whatever it may be for them. So just being really cautious of that at the end of the month, maybe making sure we're staying on our healthy path, making sure that we are staying aligned and very balanced through this month. Now for my Libras, you are almost out of the woods. We don't have too much going on as far as squares to your sign. We still have that Jupiter-Pluto square, but again, that's in the background for everyone. So you may have, some things that come up for you. Fights in the home, I could see being something that happens, or fights maybe with your spouse, your parents. There could be even a new responsibility that you have to take on this month. Maybe it is taking care of someone who's sick, or taking care of someone financially. You may have to take the burden of responsibility for someone or something this month. I could see that causing some strife, but I could also see this being a positive month for you. Venus in Gemini is trine to your sign of Libra, so you're having some good energy there, although it is retrograde, so it's going to be a little more frustrating to everyone. You're having some of the positive benefits of it. So, don't get too serious right now with relationships, I wouldn't say, but just keeping things light and fun, flirtatious, making sure you're communicating with your spouse, your partner, or your boyfriend, or your potential, keeping things positive and making sure that communication is really open and just out there, because you don't want to have some lies coming up. You know, once Mercury gets into Gemini, there may be something that comes up that you hear about. I wouldn't say that it's a direct lie, but it could be just some news that maybe you weren't expecting. So towards the middle of the month, be prepared to hear something or to find out some new news that could be positive or negative. You don't really know with these things, but there is maybe something boiling up that you're going to find out. Now with Scorpio, we'll be definitely dealing with some challenges this month since we have that Uranus-Mercury opposition to your sign. We're definitely being faced with some conflicts. Maybe you're having some financial problems, or you're having some relationship issues. There could be a breakup that comes up during this time, or just some news that comes up that affects your relationships or your finances. It's definitely an emotionally uncertain time for you. So when things aren't, when you're not feeling safe and secure, and when you're not feeling comfortable, things get a little bit wonky. So you want to just try and, stay as peaceful as you can and try to be flexible. I think this month for you is really about being flexible and being open to new ideas and not letting, patterns from the past, negative things from the past come up for you during this time. So trying to stay balanced, stay active, and probably for you digging into maybe some creative hobbies or some creative pastimes of yours will really help you to, keep that going. Now for my Sag folks, you're having some difficulties at the end of the month, and of course that Gemini in Venus is opposite to your sign, so this can cause some frustrations for you in the realm of relationships or with friends even. I could see this being a time where you've been frustrated over the last few months. You haven't been able to go out, you haven't been able to explore or do things that you had planned. And this can cause some, just little kind of arguments, little fights with people around you. Maybe partners from the past are coming up to try and talk to you again. I've seen like Snapchats or DMs, from exes, and they are really trying to slide in again and get back into your life. So, being cautious of, are you wanting to start this again? Do you want to start this relationship, or do you want to leave it in the past? Because that Neptune square to Sagittarius and square to Gemini is furthering your, uncertainty about things. It's making things foggy and making your decision-making process a little bit unclear. So staying very clear about what you want, why you've made decisions that you have, and why you've left certain people in the past is really important right now. Especially when Mars gets into Pisces towards the middle of the month, you're going to even feel that more. There might be someone very aggressive trying to get back into your life, or even someone just wanting to fight with you. There could be just a buildup of tension. So, not letting people get to you, not letting people get under your skin, and sticking your ground with decisions you made is definitely going to be important for you over this month. Now Capricorns, a lot of my Capricorn friends I know are feeling a lot better now that Saturn is out of their sign. So you're going to continue to be feeling, more energized, more positive, especially with all of those trines coming from Taurus. Uranus, Mercury, the sun is going to be there. So you'll have some heightened energy this month. There is still a lot of uncertainty and challenges with finances potentially, but things will definitely start to settle down there for you. And I could see this month even being a month that you get the job offer, or you get the bonus, you get the recognition that you have been working really hard for. I know a lot of Capricorns that work in the healthcare industry, so this month I think maybe things will start to calm down a little bit. Maybe the pressure is lifted for you a little bit this month. Things can still be crazy in work, but for you, I think that you will have some relief this month. Now for my Aquarius friends, that Saturn in your sign is starting to mess with you a little bit. So trying to not let yourself get down or depressed or let yourself get too overwhelmed right now is really important. Taking it day by day, dealing with the unknown and uncertainty, and, looking at things as an opportunity, because sometimes when you're faced with challenges or with new frustrating ways of life, you have to kind of be open-minded, right? You have to be flexible and open to change. So working on being maybe a little bit less rigid this month is going to be very important, and working on just keeping that open mind. But you also have a lot of things coming in from Gemini at the end of the month. Venus will be there, Mercury and the Sun all enter Gemini, so by the end of the month that trine will probably feel a little bit more positive for you, less restricting. Maybe you're able to get out and get back into your social life, get back into your social routine. So that should definitely brighten things up for you by the end of the month. Now, Pisces is dealing with Neptune there, of course, continued. So there is that continued, kind of fogginess. And especially since Venus is there, there can be people who come up from the past that want to talk to you again. Venus retrograde brings in lovers from the past, or relationships from the past, or even ways that we value ourselves and value what we do. So you can have some of those reevaluation conversations with yourself right now. Like, did I want to be in this relationship with this person, or was this painful for me? Kind of getting those things straightened out in your head. Especially before the time that Mars gets into Pisces, which is on May 14th, or around that time, there can be that aggressor coming back into your life. Maybe someone wanting to get something from you, use you in some way, talk to you again, use you as a shoulder to cry on, or as some emotional support, or even just use you for your assets. You want to be really cautious of not letting people, get too close to you because they want something from you. So just being very clear with yourself. I think a good way that you can deal with this is by staying really healthy right now, not letting yourself get involved in any type of unhealthy patterns of behavior, eating bad food or drugs, alcohol, or even just being around toxic people. Once we're able to socialize again, just being more careful of who you actually give your time to, who you give your energy to, and making sure that it is someone that deserves your time and energy, and not just out of convenience. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video of my May forecast and predictions. If you're interested in having a reading with me to know how the rest of the month or year is going to be affecting you, please see my link in the description box. And thank you guys again so much for watching. Have a great day. Bye.